Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 191, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show, and let's get started. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. So what was worst pick of the week? Now I had an average list of comics for myself, and that was 20 books, so let's get started. Worst pick of the week was Bane Conquest, issue 1. Now, I wanted to try this out because I like Chuck Dixon as a writer, and it was the original Bane creators coming to write a Bane story. And the artwork is very 90s in a good way. It's reminiscent, but the story was really boring. I did not like it. It was Bane teaming up with the mob to try to destroy Gotham. That's all that's really happening here. The dialogue was really boring. There was nothing to latch onto for me here, so I will not be getting the next issue. This is a 12-issue miniseries. I don't know where it's going, but Bane Conquest, issue 1, gets 1.5 stars for me. Was not very interested in that. Alright, moving on to number 19, which is The Flintstones, issue 11, which honestly is a book I just feel fatigued. I really liked this book in the beginning, but it just kind of is not going anywhere anymore. I think there's one more issue left, and that's why I'm still picking it up, and I moved it digitally now, but I like these characters, I like the world and social commentary they're trying to bring, but how much can you do with that when you're not really focusing on the character stories that much? It's very much more about the social commentary, and that's why it's kind of lost me in the end. But I will pick up the last issue to see how this one ends. Alright, so The Flintstones gets 2 stars, and now it's number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is a new independent book that looked interesting for the description, and that was Stained, or might be Strained, and I wrote it wrong. It's Stained, issue 1, and that's from 451 Media Group. And this seemed interesting because it's supposed to be about an assassin who tries to live a normal life and doesn't, I guess. That's what the description was. It's like, oh, you know, kind of this double life thing, and the book was nothing like that. And, I mean, the art's gritty and it works for the tone of the book, but nothing really jumped out at me. It was just a generic assassin story. There wasn't anything there for me. So, yeah, sadly this was just generic and didn't really get me enough to pick up the next issue. So I gave that 2.5 stars, and that is number 18. Alright, moving on to number 17. I know not a lot of people will agree with this, but Secret Empire issue 1. See, it was not worst pick of the week this time. It got a little better for me, but still not my cup of tea. Now, the reason I'm picking up this series is because it is very connected to the Marvel Universe. It's going to be tying into almost every Marvel book, so as a reviewer, I'm kind of forced to get this book. But also as just a Marvel fan, I'm forced to get this book. So I don't love that, but I'm not a huge Captain America fan, so that's why I'm not as invested in the storyline as other people. I know a lot of people are enjoying it. I'm just not as invested. But I thought the Rick Jones storyline was interesting, but it's very much a slow burn, and I don't really like the dialogue that much. It takes a while to kind of get to the point, and it's like a $4.99 book, so it is a heavy read, and it really just depends if it's your cup of tea or not. I know a lot of people are enjoying it. Steve McNiven's artwork is great here, but it's just not my type of story. So Secret Empire issue 1 gets 2.5 stars for me. Is an improvement because we do get a little bit more story here impacting the whole Marvel Universe, but don't know if there's that hook for me just yet. Alright, moving on to number 16, which is Spider-Man issue 16, and like I promised, I did move that one digitally. I'm not picking up printed as of right now, because I just don't like the direction of the book, and it continues for me not to like the direction of the book, where Miles' mother is kind of against him, but then says, I love you, but still, you lied to me. And Black Cat's back. How I do not care about Black Cat being a villain, a true villain. I loved her story in Silk. I thought they gave her dimensions, but every single time she ends up in any other book, she's just like this two-dimensional, twisting my mustache. I'm still angry that Peter was Superior Spider-Man. Like, how long ago was that? And he wasn't even Superior Spider-Man. She knows that was Dr. Octopus, and still, this is the reason why she's the Black Cat she is today. So still don't really like that story, obviously. So, don't care for her to be in this story. Ganke's story with the journalist is interesting, but also feels weird. Like, why is he betraying his friend? Like, I thought he was more trustworthy than that. So, obviously, character motives I don't really agree with here. Artwork was good, though. I like the art. It's pretty clean. I enjoyed that. And one moment I did really enjoy was the Spider-Man Homecoming reference, where Ganke has to use a fake name, and he uses Ned because everyone thought that Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming was Ganke, so I thought that was pretty funny. So that was definitely the best reason to pick this up, but probably still not worth picking up because I just told you that scene. So, Spider-Man issue 16 gets 2.5 stars for me. Alright, moving on to number 15, which is Nightwing, issue 20, which I'm just kind of feeling fatigued with the storyline of Deathwing, Professor Pig stuff, but I'm glad it's over, and it ends pretty well, where, you know, says, hey, you know, Robin's different from Batman, which we know, and there's some nice dialogue there about that, and we do find out that Nightwing's girlfriend is not pregnant, so we do get a conclusion with that storyline. But like I said, I just kind of felt fatigued with this storyline because it lasted so long and just stretched itself out. So overall, I gave this one 3 stars. There's definitely some good character moments there, but the momentum's not as much there as it was in the beginning of the arc. Alright, so moving on to the next issue, which is number 14, which is Youngblood, issue 1. I was surprised by this book. I've never read a Youngblood book. I'm pretty sure I have some in my collection just because, you know, you get cheap comics somewhere, or, you know, I think everyone has at least one issue of Youngblood in their collection. It's been re-released a lot from Image. So Youngblood, I really like the beginning of this book because it's more new reader friendly. You learn more about this character who's like Olympic star, and she's part of this app, and she's part of the new Youngblood, so I thought that was cool. I like the utilization of the app. Artwork is pretty solid too. I like the art overall. Like I said, it was solid. But then once you get towards the end of the issue and meet the characters you're supposed to know already, that's where it gets kind of non-new reader friendly. I'm like, okay, where is this all at? And I feel like this book should be more new reader friendly than it was at the tail end of the issue. But still, I did get motivation to buy the next issue. I thought it was entertaining. So Youngblood issue 1 gets 3.5 stars. And hopefully we get a little bit more explanation of who all these characters are for the new readers like myself. Moving on to number 13, the reason this is lower is honestly because of the art change, and that was Hawkeye issue 6. The artwork was not good. Some of the facial expressions, it was just so simple that it honestly kind of looked like stick figures at times. Like, that was Jessica Jones. She has no detail in her face at all. So, yeah, the artwork was not as good as it usually is. The only part of the artwork I liked is that the coloring is still the same, so, and the tone of the artwork is still the same. It's just the pencils did not work for me here. But the story was really good. It was Jessica Jones and Kate teaming up once again, and finding out that the dragon character was the character they were looking for. I forget her name. I think her name was Zoe or something. Let's see. But anyways, the girl that became like a model, she ended up being the dragon, and she's an Inhuman. I thought, you know, it was predictable. You knew she was the dragon from the beginning of this issue, maybe even last issue, but only because they introduced that mystery here. You kind of knew she was the dragon. But I like the whole Inhuman story, and her battling that part of herself I thought was very cool. And also, it reminds you, because I'm a huge Young Avengers fan, but for some reason I didn't think about this as Jessica and Kate were teaming up. But Jessica's known Kate literally from the beginning. You know, Jessica was kind of a mentor for the Young Avengers, so they had a line here where I'm like, oh yeah, Jessica's known Kate for a really long time. So I thought that was really cool, and it made this whole team up even better. So story-wise, I had a fun time, but I had to bring it a little lower because of the pencils here. So Hawkeye issue 6 gets 3.5 stars, and very much looking forward to the next issue, which is going to be Kate looking at her past. So finally, get to learn more about Kate's family. Alright, moving on to the next issue. which is number 12, and that is Outcast issue 27. Now, after this, we got 4-star books and higher. It was a pretty good week. So, Outcast issue 27 is a solid read. My only nitpick with this issue, the detective character, the policeman, looks a lot like our main character, Kyle. I got confused. I thought the wife was talking to Kyle the whole time, and then by the end of the conversation, I'm like, wait, that's the detective. So, I think some of the artwork, now that Kyle has a bigger beard, needs to work on making them look a little different. But overall, I like this because we learn a little bit more about the light, the darkness, this world, and Kyle is really training to become a better outcast. And also, we're seeing more of his daughter, that she's kind of have to deal with having this weird world now. Obviously, Kyle's wife, just trying to wrap her head around everything. So, the family aspect of this issue is really well done, and also building the world was done well here. And I'm glad that Anderson, the priest, is not there anymore, because I think he's the weakest part of this book. So, Outcast issue 27 gets a solid 4 stars, focusing on the family again. Alright, moving on to number 11, which is Deathstroke issue 18, another family book, where we get to see Jericho finally has his wedding, but his wife or fiance dies, and we just see how messed up this family is. And by the end, Jericho's like ready to kill Slade and Rose. And Rose is also trying to figure out her own identity. That's a big part of the issue too that I enjoyed, is that can she be Ravager and like be a hero or a villain? Like what's her place in the world? And I like that. You know, that's always been part of Rose's narrative, and I'm like that they're taking that head on here. Artwork is also really gorgeous. Really like the setup, the paneling for this book. And I love when this book is always about the family. When it just turns into Slade's book, it gets really boring quick. But when it's about him and his family dynamic, that is when the book is at its best. So Deathstroke issue 18 gets a solid 4 stars. Alright, moving on to number 10, which is Jessica Jones, issue 8, where we get to see a story between Maria Hill and Jessica. And I love Jessica just not trusting Maria Hill, where Maria Hill is just looking for help from Jessica, and Jessica's like, no, you can't trust these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And now by the end, we get to see the S.H.I.E.L.D. go into Jessica's backyard pretty much and say, hey, we need to talk. So we'll see what Maria's hiding. She doesn't even know what she's hiding and why S.H.I.E.L.D. is going up against them. But I think we're really going to see that gray side of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, that they're not good people, but they're not villains. It's like that kind of morally gray, grayness of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, Jessica Jones issue 8 gets a solid 4 stars. Once again, it's a very quick read, but there's some interesting character work with this issue. Alright, moving on to number 9, which is Superman issue 22, which is a Lois Lane issue, and is so much fun. Artwork is pretty good here, even though it's the same anime art. I think it actually works better for Lois. It made it feel more moody than anime-ish with the dark inking. But then there was times where, like, some of the artwork just got weird with the proportions. There's a time where, like, Lois is running, and it looked like she was crawling on the floor just because of the angle. So, yeah, there's some times where I think the artwork's a bit off, but overall I thought it was strong. And I like that it's just Lois not being a damsel in distress. She knows how to protect herself, and it's also unraveling the mystery of maybe the town being under control. So their neighbors might not be bad people, they just might be under control of this bigger entity. And then we get a little scene with Superman figuring out the same thing that Lois did. So, solid 4 stars, very strong Lois Lane issue. Some of the artwork could have been better though. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Spider-Gwen issue 19. A solid issue after a lackluster crossover with Spider-Man. So finally we're back on track, where Matt Murdock introduces the Venom to Gwen. So she's like, what am I going to do with this? I don't want this. Because she's the only one who could really have the Venom attached to her, because she her DNA now, because she's a spider person, can handle the venom. So they make a deal, and Gwen kind of has to use the venom now to have her powers fully. But then there's other characters that get some good story here too. Of course, George Stacy, he's going closer to his trial and trying to figure out what's his dynamic with his daughter now because of this, because Gwen's gonna do anything to save her dad, where George will do anything to save his daughter, so they're just both being martyrs for each other. And then Harry is finally back in this book too, because Norman is in this book, and Norman wants to save Harry, but might be too late to save him. You know, the venom is going to maybe connect with Harry, and Gwen's gonna have to convince Harry to do so. So Gwen very much on the dark side here, because Matt Murdock is playing her as a puppet. But also we got an awesome scene with MJ, where MJ's just once again convinced that Gwen is Spider-Woman, and she's right. And her bandmates don't trust her and say, come on, you're just with your conspiracy theories, Gwen is not Spider-Woman. And then we have one of her bandmates text her and is like, that was just a coincidence that on the TV, Spider-Woman got a text message right when I texted Gwen. So hopefully the, MJ, or, at least Mary Jane will, be in the know and help out Gwen in this arc, because they're teasing us. I want it to finally happen. I think that's going to really help Gwen's supporting characters, and maybe the whole band in general will find out that Spider-Woman and Gwen are the same person. So overall, there's a lot of meat here. They try to fit in a lot of stuff, but a lot of good stuff. So Spider-Gwen issue 19 gets 4 stars. Moving on to number 7, I believe, and that is X-Men Gold issue 3. I like this issue a lot. I mean, not a lot happens. It's more of an action issue, but Kitty Pryde is a badass leader here, where she knows exactly what to do. She kind of, she's able to play a chess game with her X-Men members. Not saying she doesn't see them as people, or, she doesn't see them as soldiers, but she knows how to use them for strategy, which I thought was really cool. And I enjoyed that. I will say I kind of miss fun Kitty Pryde. You don't really get to see a lot of funness with her, but you see her strength as a character, so I like that. And by the end, once again, you see her strength, that she finds out who is behind the Brotherhood, which I thought was cool. And yeah, it's a solid issue of Kitty just being an awesome leader. So X-Men Gold issue 3 gets 4 stars. Moving on to number 6, which is Reggie and Me issue 5. This is a sad issue, but a happy issue too. But we get to see Reggie dealing with his dog getting hurt, and his dog learning more about Reggie, and still seeing him as the good guy, but also saying, oh, well, he did do all those bad things too. And now it's the community finding out what happened to Reggie's dog and being there for him. But most importantly, Betty, because that's been a big build-up of Betty and Reggie just never getting along, and they make a truce of saying, hey, maybe we should be friends. Let's give each other, a chance. And then the whole town is there for him, but of course it's Reggie, so he's gonna take that to his advantage, and Vader's cool with that. It was a good ending. Love the miniseries. If you want a fun, character-driven miniseries about the villain of Riverdale, pick up Reggie and Me, issue 5, and the rest of the miniseries. I wish this was an ongoing, and hopefully we get to see more of Tom DeFalco's work at Archie soon. So that was 4 stars, and that was number 6. Moving on to number 5, which was Injustice 2, issue 1. A great start for the new volume of Injustice and Tom Taylor's return on the series. I loved how character-driven this was. Great opener with Superman and Batman just getting at it and talking to each other and showing that they know each other better than themselves at times, and that's why they could get on each other's nerves, and that's putting it lightly. And then even seeing the strength of Harley and Batman's team up and their friendships, seeing that Batman doesn't just see Harley as a pawn and that she's a friend. So I liked her storyline. Tom Taylor has a great voice for her. And then we get to see the return of Green Arrow and Black Canary. That was cool. Another set of characters Tom Taylor wrote really well in Injustice. So overall, there's a lot of great stuff here, especially a lot of great character stuff. And the artwork, as always, is solid. and brings out those really expressive scenes that Tom Taylor has. So Injustice 2 issue 1 gets 4.5 stars, and that's number 5. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of good books in our top 5 here. Alright, so moving on to number 4, a book that really surprised me, and that was Green Lanterns issue 22. And finally we get to see Jessica and Baz interacting with the other Green Lanterns from the Green Lantern Corps. So we have Kyle, we have Guy Gardner, we have John Stewart, and it's Jessica just being amazed because she's never really done the space thing. She's been on Earth being a Green Lantern, been on the Justice League. And Baz is like, yeah, I've done this, so I kind of know what's going on. I've done basic training. And Jessica gets her lantern taken away because she has not done basic training. And she's angry about that. She feels like she deserves her lantern. But we get to see now Jessica's gonna have to team up with Guy Gardner, and now we're gonna have Baz like take up his next training seminar with Kyle. So this is gonna be fun. As much as I love this book on Earth, I think we needed a breath of fresh air and something new with this book. So, very excited to see Jessica and Baz take on their training. And this was a really fun, just Green Lantern book in general. So, Green Lanterns issue 22 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 4. Alright, so now I'm going to move on to number 3, which is Jean Grey issue 1. Yeah, Jean Grey, I wasn't surprised by it because I love Dennis Hopeless's writing, but I loved how character-driven it was. I loved how we got into her head, and then her just saying, oh, I don't want to be like that other Jean Grey. I'm okay with not being her. I'm okay with being this version of myself. And then she sees the Phoenix, she's like, oh shit, it's gonna happen, isn't it? And it's just so well done because it's Jean in her head the whole entire time. So even though the visuals is just her like fighting these two guys, the actual story is so character driven, and I love that. And Hopeless does a great job at bringing that inner voice out. We saw it with Jessica, and we're seeing it here with Jessica Drew with Spider-Woman, and we're seeing it here with Jean now. And I'm so excited to see how this Jean Grey will deal with the Phoenix Force and seeing the Phoenix Force. So I gave this issue 4.5 stars. Now, this top 2 was so hard because I really love both these books, but number 2 is Batman issue 22. I did get the 3D cover. Love this cover here. And this, had so much heart because it's Thomas Wayne saying goodbye to Batman, and I love the scene where Batman, where Thomas says, be happy, don't be Batman, we don't want you to be Batman. So it's going to be that question of what Batman's going to do. He always thought his parents would want him to do this. He wanted to right the crimes of, the world and try to make people not deal with what he had to deal with. So now that Thomas Wayne has said that, what's going to happen? So that was just such a strong moment of the issue. But also we get a little bit more about Flashpoint, how it's connected to things. But what I also liked about this issue is that it's kind of a goodbye to the New 52. It's a farewell. If you love the New 52, saying goodbye to this Flashpoint world is really saying goodbye to those 5 years of DC Comics. So I like that aspect to it. And then finally we get to see Reverse Flash again. So we're going to get more time travel-ness, I'm sure, with the next issue of The Flash. So very well done. If you're a hardcore Flashpoint fan, I think you're going to love that. I think there's some aspects where I'm like, oh, Aquaman and Wonder Woman, I don't really care about you. Because Thomas Wayne was always the best part of Flashpoint for me. But yeah, this was a great book. And again, it was just so hard to pick this or my number 1. But I think my number 1 I will be rereading a little bit more. But I could see that I'll be rereading this one too. So Batman issue 22 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. It is Paper Girls, issue 14. Love this book. It's like my pick of the week every month it comes out. Next issue will be the end of the arc, so we're going to have a little of a hiatus for Paper Girls. But finally we get some answers. I go in depth with that with my in-depth review on my channel, so go check that out. But we get to see more religious undertones. We get to learn more about Worry, who is the mother character that was introduced here. And the Doctor character from the future, we get to see a little bit more from her too. But once again, the strength of this book is the characters. It's the girls coming back together, and that's just so much fun. But once again, it's KJ for MVP. It just shows how strong she is as a character. She sees the cavemen trying to kill this woman, and she's like, I'll be the distraction. And no one says no. Everyone's like, alright, KJ's a survivor. She survived that whole time, and when we didn't see her, she'll be fine. She survived this moment in the arc with trying to save Mac. She'll be good. So it's KJ trying to deviate the cavemen, just again showing her strength as a character, but it's also trying her dealing with what she saw. She saw that she kissed Mac, and she's like, what does this mean? So you can see that she's stunned throughout the whole issue until she starts running from the cavemen. And I love this panel where we get to see KJ literally take a leap of faith because does not want to get killed by these cavemen. But then you have this nice little panel where she's like, oh, well, the last thing she says, oh, I'm going to kiss Mac, like, why would I do that? He said, why would I kiss a girl? I guess she would say that. And then she lands and she's like, that's why, because she was running away from the guys, so obviously she probably doesn't like the guys, and now it's kind of this analogy to that. So I like that. It's interesting how she is able to discover her identity in this book because she saw the future, and how that's going to play a bigger part, I'm sure, in the next issue and the upcoming issues of Paper Girls in general. So a very well done showcase of KJ, but once again, the other characters have some great moments too. Tiffany remembering what the monster did to herself in the last arc, that she was seeing her past and how she wasted it. And then Mac, she's just wants to go back and just try to find this time machine, but also worrying about KJ, so that might play into the future of their arc. And then also learning about these other two characters, like I mentioned before, Worry and the Space Woman. We get a lot more information about them and seeing them team up now with the girls. So I really like this issue because I feel like we get some more answers. We learn more about the Apple product, what that's all about. And more about the time travel aspect of this book too. So Paper Girls, I gave this 4.5 stars. Really well done book. It was hard to pick this as pick of the week because there are so many good books, but once again, I could see myself rereading this one a lot. So let me know in the comments below, what was your pick of the week, what was your worst pick of the week, and everything in between. This is Comic Uno. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.